What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another time lapse, and what I've got for you here today is the Roman Empire versus the Mongol Empire. I put both of these empires in 1444 so that way we can see who comes out on top. With the Mongol Empire, you'll notice that there is a red Mongolia and a blue, well, right now it's got a bunch of random names, but it will say Mongol Tartary. So the red will say Mongol Empire, the blue will say Mongol Tartary. Those are the same country. And with that, enjoy the time lapse, and let's see how things go. So early on, we note that the Mongol Empire released the Iconate. This is an event that they get. They release that orange Persian subject. That is both an event and a part of their mission tree. Mongol Empire is expanding into Bulgaria. I mean, not the Mongol Empire. The Roman Empire is expanding into Bulgaria. Mongol Empire is sort of just hanging out. England has managed to take all of Ireland and Scotland. They actually consolidated that really quickly. Still don't have their capital. That's still very Roman, but I'm not sure how much that's going to change. What'll be interesting to see with England here is how much colonization they do, because they might be the only colonial power in this time lapse. The Roman Empire just released Castile, and oh my goodness, the Roman Empire is collapsing. Portugal exists, Aragon exists, the Ottomans exist, France is now falling apart, Mamluks are expanding, Naples just came out. The Roman Empire is completely falling apart. They actually, and that's so weird that that happened that way, because of the fact that it didn't happen early. I mean, that was like 200 years in, and all of a sudden the Roman Empire just completely collapses. I'm honestly not 100% certain what caused that, but it led to a really dominant Commonwealth. Taking that Balkans region. The Ilkhanate just went to war with the Mongol Empire, who is now also appearing to have their own collapse. Kazan appearing, Jin just popped out of them. Ardabil, I love Ardabil taking the Northern Caucasus region. That's awesome. Yeah, the Mongol Empire is completely falling apart. And one of the things that's interesting, it appears as though we have a slightly aggressive Ming. Ming, I might have missed something, but Ming might have just taken territory from the Mongol Empire as they collapse. Yeah, wow. That is a hyper-aggressive Ming that we don't often see. Portugal and Spain ended up being the colonizers. England did not do anything, which is funny because they're the ones who existed at the beginning. That is an absolutely bizarre little time lapse that we just watched there. So normally I do my time lapses to about 3,000, but I hadn't watched this time lapse all the way through. But I had an idea that things fell apart when I looked really briefly and saw, that looks like things aren't there that should be there. And wow, that just absolutely fell apart faster than I expected, and just the way it happened, that was an interesting little time lapse. And let's go take a look at some of the stuff that we've got here. So Europe, because of the fact that it was largely Roman, is really an interesting. Iberia hasn't changed. Great Britain hasn't changed. That France with a large Normandy, Tuscany taking northern Italy and France, the two Sicilies existing, Westphalia formed, and then an absolutely massive Commonwealth. In Asia, we've got the just small remnants of a Mongol Empire that existed at one point. Honestly, the Revolutionary Ilkhanate might be is the last remnant that we have of that Mongol Empire. And then that revolutionary Ming, I don't know if I've seen a Ming go that absolutely aggressive. Religious map mode, you know what is interesting? The fact that Orthodoxy barely exists. A little bit in Russia and then in the Nordic states. But Rome was formed by starting with Byzantium, and I had them integrate the countries around them. They take religious ideas. I expected them to do more religious conversions with all the territory they started with, but instead it looks like they just flipped to Catholic. It's probably the smarter thing to do because, well, their country was almost entirely Catholic. For the culture map mode, probably the most interesting aspect of this map mode is the Greek region. They are lost culture Roman. So we did see a little bit of culture conversion from them as they sort of converted their core regions. It is kind of funny to see Roman culture in Greece and not in Italy where Rome is. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about this dynastic map mode. This is a mess. This is an absolute mess. This looks like someone took paint and threw it at a wall with a bunch of different colors. Wow. I just love the dynasty that's just called Goo. I think that fits this whole thing really well. I mean, you've got the von Gesburg, which was the Commonwealth, but other than that, I mean, it's them in China, and then it's just a bunch of little guys all over the place. Well, the entirety of the world revolves around Warsaw, which has a development of 185. That is by far the largest in the world. There's a couple other areas which have a light tinge to them, but nothing comes close to that Warsaw, just light green. And finally, the great powers. We've got the Commonwealth, Revolutionary Ming. Revolutionary Ming even isn't something we see very often. Ming go revolutionary. Mexico did solid over in North America. They could care less about the East Coast. Honestly, the East Coast still looks pretty tribal. There's a bunch of different nations there, and Mexico just said, we'll take California, and then called it a day. Revolutionary Delhi, Castile, Revolutionary Vianyar. Probably mispronounced that. I apologize if you're Vianyarnian. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this time lapse. I know timeline-wise, it was a little bit shorter than what we normally do, so we probably didn't see nearly as much of the religious and culture conversions as we see in the time lapses that go another 1,200 years or so. But with the collapse of the Mongol and Roman Empire, I figured sort of the focal points of the video were dead in 1821, so we do a time lapse for the regular course of the game. If you guys like seeing these 1444 time lapses to 1821 time lapses instead of the normal 1444 to 3000, do let me know, and maybe we'll look at doing some of these shorter time lapses. They're kind of fun. We can run them a little bit slower, and so we try to still get that 5 minutes or so of time lapse by doing a slower speed rather than the longer time lapses with the faster speed. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys in the next one. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because I almost forgot to mention it. Reath out.